Welcome to Shoot the Hostage. I am Dan.
And I'm Sarah, and we're a movie show that covers 8 films each season, tied together by a central theme. This season, the theme is folklore.
We cover everything from explosive action to spine-tingling horror and everything in between. And as a heads up, we don't hold back on coarse language or specific plot details, so listener discretion is advised.
This podcast is brought to you by our amazing patrons, without whom the show would not be possible. If you'd like to help out and access all of our bonus content, including new reviews and rap shows, all the relevant links will be in the show notes.
And if you're not a Patreon person, but you would still like to help out, you could rate and review us on your podcast player of choice. Tell a friend and get them to rate and review us as well. Or come follow us and interact with us on social media, mostly Instagram, X, Threads, TikTok, all at sch_pod. Without further delay, here's this week's episode. We hope you enjoy it and stick around.
We're back for season 4.
Season 4,
We made it.
folklore.
Yes, that was unintentional, but I do like a good rhyme.
I was thinking, like in the promotional material, could we put like folk and then the number 4 and then law? Folklore.
That doesn't make any sense.
Folklore. Do you know what I mean?
No, well, I know what you mean, but I'm vetoing it. That's worse than the Expendables.
I might do it anyway.
Okay, yeah, you're a law unto yourself.
I'm a folklore onto myself.
Yeah.
Folklore, yes. As usual, we've got 8 movies lined up.
Mm-hmm.
The first one we're doing is the VVitch.
Yes. Are you going to insist on saying that?
Well, that's how it's written.
Technically speaking, yes. But I think everyone just calls it the witch, right? It's basically...
Yeah.
Because when the film was set, the letter W wasn't really in use.
Mm.
So it's just like a pretentious kind of nod to the time period, isn't it?
Yeah, and also it sounds cool.
Does it?
So it's good for the marketing.
Sounds metal.
Yeah. So the witch, the VVitch, you know what we're talking about. You've got a very good-looking second sight edition of this movie, haven't you?
I do. I wondered where you were going with that sentence. I was hoping it was going to end with face. But a girl can dream. I do. You bought it for me.
Yes, it's lovely. There's a really nice book and double disc and loads of extras and really pretty pictures and stuff. It's a really nice edition.
I think it might be my favourite Blu-ray that I own.
Better than The Guest?
Ooh. They're both second sight, though. They put out such nice releases.
Yeah, they do.
You can't make me choose.
It's so difficult. Every time they announce a pre-order, it's always... I always look and it's always... Even movies like I'm not hugely a fan of, like the Ginger Snaps movies. I'm like, oh, but there's a trilogy and
but look at it.
Yeah, and they're so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so keep it up, second sight.
Yeah. Yes, please.
But make it cheaper.
Okay, so before we get too deep into the who's, the where's, the whys, etc.
The law, the folklore.
The law of the
folk for law.
Stop trying to make it a thing. Yeah, synopsizers. Is that a word?
Yeah, I'm going to synopsize you. So, Letterboxd, as usual.
Yep.
Evil takes many forms.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a rabbit, sometimes a goat.
How dare
you?
That was a hare, not a rabbit.
It was a hare. Sometimes a horse, sometimes...
You're getting carried away.
I am getting
You're
carried
getting
away.
sidetracked already.
Synopsis. In 1630s New England... Hang on, I'm going to face the microphone. In 1630s New England, William and Catherine lead a devout Christian life with 5 children. And I've forgotten to put my glasses on. Homesteading on the edge of an impassable wilderness, exiled from their settlement when William defies the local church. When their newborn son vanishes and crops mysteriously fail, the family turns on one another.
Yeah.
So, baby go bye-bye. They all go mad.
Yeah, that's a pretty succinct way of, reducing the plot down to nothing.
The first time I saw this...
Yeah.
Was that for the Witch Festival that we had?
Yes.
I'm asking you that. I wasn't sure if I'd seen it before, because it's a 24, isn't it?
It is a 24, yes.
It's quite an early 24.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I've seen this now twice.
Well, 3 times. You watched it with the commentary as well.
True, yeah, that counts.
It's more than I've done.
But you've seen this like 10 times.
Like 8 or 9 times.
And for a movie that's not even 10 years old yet, that's a lot of times. Were you excited for this movie coming out? Were you obviously aware of it, being a huge horror fan?
I had seen the trailer, and I was very lucky in that I was able to go to a press screening of it in London.
Nice.
Soho House? No, Soho Hotel, which I don't know why they just didn't go with Soho Hotel, because it's really difficult to say. I was initially drawn by the promise of free wine, but I stayed for the film and it was excellent. It blew me away. It has all of the beats that I absolutely love. It has so much in common with the 1970s horror films that I adore. So I think I was always destined to love this one.
Yes. I think if I'd have seen this independently of you, if this had come out this week and I'd gone to see it without you, which would never happen, but say...
I wouldn't allow it.
Yeah, say that had happened in a different universe, I would watch it and go, oh, Sarah would love this.
Would you?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
It's got my name written all over it.
It has got your name written all over it.
But yeah, I have since gone on to adorn myself with a Black Phillip tattoo, quite a large tattoo.
Oh.
Of that shitty goat. Yeah, I don't know what it is about this film. I find it endlessly watchable.
Well, I guess we'll find out, won't we?
Yes.
During this conversation. And I don't really know what kind of avenues we're going to go down. Because it's one of those films where it's so detailed in how it's made, how it's presented, and what you're seeing, and things flash. And having particularly seen it for the third time today, and twice in quite short succession, there's a lot more that I picked up.
Oh, okay.
Just in terms of flash images, or, watching it with the director's commentary helps, because he's also going, you can see the cut there, can't you? And I'm going, oh yeah, I do see a cut.
Insight from the man himself.
Exactly, yeah. So when someone's explaining it to you, it does help me to appreciate things a bit more.
Yeah.
But I liked it anyway. I liked it anyway. I thought it was a really good movie, and I love how lean it is.
I was actually quite surprised by how much he took to this, because it's not typically something I would predict that you would enjoy.
It's funny. It feels like there would be quite a few barriers. It's a
period piece for a start.
It's a period piece. It's doing the old English thing where you have to work quite hard to kind of think about what they're saying.
Well, it's not just the dialogue; it's the accents as well.
Yeah. And the way it looks is quite drab and dreary and kind of not kind of tired looking.
Very
by design.
Muted colour palette.
Yeah, and it feels like it wouldn't be an enjoyable film to watch, but I think it actually is quite enjoyable to watch. And part of that is how lean it is, the pacing of it. I do think it lays the groundwork really economically.
Yeah.
And then you get to know these people over the first half of the movie. And then, there are certain things that happen early on as well that keep me interested. Okay. And I'm obviously talking about the stuff with the witch, because I don't know, I suppose it could be one of those films where is there a witch, isn't there a witch? And you can sort of read it that way.
Well, I mean, if we're going to skip to the end immediately, Robert Eggers himself, I think, kind of said it's open to interpretation. You can, it's just as valid to be of the belief that everything is literal as it is to believe that the family just goes mad because of their devout beliefs and their isolation and their rejection, and the child dying or going missing, and then just spiraling
and possibly tripping their bollocks off of poisoned corn.
No.
Hallucinating.
No, I'm gonna correct you straight out of the gate there.
I love this section. Episode 1, season 4. Dan gets corrected. This is going to be a recurring theme.
So a lot of people think that is the case, that they were tripping their bollocks off, to, as you poetically put it, I believe. But it's since been debunked. So he's the dad, Ralph Ineson, is shown holding a cob of corn that they've grown, and it looks like it's got some sort of mold or parasite or something on it, I think you said, like a fungus. But people watching it mistook it for something called ergot.
Ergot, yeah.
Which is a fungus that produces a hallucinogen. A lot of people historically believe that is, or had a part in, the hysteria surrounding actual cases of accused witches.
Yeah.
How true that is, we don't know. But ergot is not found on corn. It's it wouldn't grow on it.
Right.
So that's a red herring,
Okay.
perhaps. So,
Well,
yeah,
I guess not then. I guess you can just disregard that.
It is just that their crops have failed.
Yeah.
But we don't know why. We do know why. It's
No.
supernatural.
You mentioned Ralphie Boy there.
Yes.
Chris Finch. Finchie's
What?
in this movie.
I am not a fan of the Office, the original version.
The Orifice.
Oh, here we go. So I know him primarily as the dad from The Witch.
Yeah, fair enough. He might pop up again this season.
He definitely will pop up again this season.
Might be in something else that we're talking about.
The film starts with his dialogue, doesn't it? His amazing, bassy, rumbling voice.
Yeah, where they're in the meeting hall.
Mhm.
He's with his family and he's facing these people, and they're like, "Get out of the settlement. Piss off. Go on, get lost."
Yeah, that's exactly how they said it, as if they're from Essex.
Yeah.
Some sort of Puritan council, I guess.
Yeah, and he's sort of saying, "Well, I did nothing. Say the preaching of Jesus Christ or whatever he says. I'm a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Leave me alone." But they decide to fuck off, and this is New England, right? So this is a family that's gotten a boat from England to Massachusetts, and it's set in 1630, as we said in the synopsis, right?
Yeah, which is like, I think, something like 60 years before the Salem witch trials.
Right. So it's kind of like the initial ideas or the stories, or just kind of the part of the kind of the road to that event.
Yeah.
Yeah, cast wise, it's a really good cast. Obviously, I said Chris Finch, but Ralph Ineson is fucking great in this movie.
He's brilliant.
Everyone is amazing. Kate Dickie.
Do you know what? I've been a fan of Kate Dickie for a long time now, and I think she might be one of the nicest people working in UK cinema. She's so sweet.
Oh yeah.
But I think one of the first things I really took notice of her in was an Andrea Arnold film called Red Road, which is super dark, kind of gritty British cinema. But yeah, huge recommend for that. She's fantastic, always.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with her. I know her mostly from this, I would say.
I think she's probably most famous for a recurring role on Game of Thrones.
Yes. Was there also breastfeeding going on?
Yes.
Yeah. I've heard this.
I would argue that the Game of Thrones stuff was way worse.
It always is on Game of Thrones, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, also Kate Dickie might be popping up again this season.
Yeah.
I mean, Ralph Ineson and Kate Dickie are basically, we're saying they're in a movie that we're covering this season.
Stop it.
If you can guess it, then you score some...
Nothing.
Just, we'll go,
bragging
all right,
rights.
Cool, well done.
We've obviously got Anya Taylor-Joy in her first credited movie role.
Oh, okay. Yes, I did look on Letterboxd and there was something before that. But that could have been a TV show, could have been something unreleased. But yeah, this is the first kind of thing that I was aware of that she was in. Obviously, I didn't see this movie when it came out, but I think I was aware of it. She's kind of everywhere now, isn't she? She's
you can't avoid her. Yeah.
Split, and she's going to be Furiosa in the new Mad Max film coming out pretty soon, I think, actually. Next few months, maybe. Next 6 months. So. Oh, God, that's exciting, isn't it? She's Princess Peach in Super Mario Brothers.
She's in a bunch of really offbeat stuff that I like Thoroughbreds and The Menu.
The Menu, yeah.
She makes interesting choices. Last Night in Soho.
Yeah.
Obviously great in that. She's had a pretty diverse career so far.
New Mutants.
Still haven't seen that, so I can't comment.
Nobody's seen it.
No.
It doesn't exist. It's a trick. It's what do you call it? The Mandela, the Mandela assumption. I think it's that.
Let's go with that.
I think that exists in a different universe.
In this universe, the Mandela effect is called the Mandela assumption.
That's right. That's right. Do you know, I think the kids are always fucking annoying in movies, but these kids are great. Caleb, particularly.
Do you know, I had exactly the same thought, because so often, I mean, how do you direct a child? I don't even know where one would start with that task,
I don't
because
know.
surely they're just like distracted by everything. And
Well, I did hear on a commentary there was a scene where they had to shoot the twins being asleep. I don't know if you remember that scene. But apparently he was doing a slow zoom up to them, and the boy had a sweet in his mouth, and every time the camera got close, he started chewing it. And Eggers was like, come on, you got to stop fucking around, stop chewing the sweet. He goes, have you got the sweet? He goes, no, I haven't got it, I'll spell it out. Okay, fine. And they start filming again, and he start chewing, and he's got the sweet, and he got so pissed off of it that he actually physically fished the sweet out of the kid's mouth.
I'm sure some unions would have something to say about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I heard a similar story, actually. I think Eggers had...
Eggers.
I think he had quite a bit of difficulty directing the children on this film.
Yeah, okay.
Because I heard a similar story where obviously the most memorable scene with Caleb, which we'll get to, where he is just phenomenal. You know the one. You know the one. But apparently he couldn't get is it Harvey Scrimshaw?
Harvey Scrimshaw, yeah, that's right.
Right. He couldn't, what's the word? He couldn't articulate. Oh God, the irony. He couldn't articulate his...
This is a universe where you don't know the word for articulate.
He couldn't articulate his intended direction to Harvey. So Ralph Ineson had to step in and do it for him.
Okay.
Because Harvey he didn't understand what Robert Eggers wanted from him. And apparently Ineson has a lot of experience at teaching kids acting. It's something that he does. So he was really good about it, and he just kind of stepped up and created some sort of football analogy.
Yeah, I heard
that really
this.
helped.
I heard that he tried to kind of break it down in a way that the kid would understand.
Yeah.
And I think it was Eggers actually. He on a commentary had said like, "Oh, I couldn't relate too much to this kid, so Ralph helped out." But I think Ralph was involved in this movie from quite early on, by all accounts. He definitely was a part of the casting process, and like saw all of the other cast with Eggers. Black Phillip was played by Charlie.
Oh, we're going to talk about Charlie, are we?
Yeah. He was Eggers. He also had a problem. I'm going to do that every time. He also had a problem directing the animal.
Funny that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He said apparently the hair was the best at taking direction.
Yeah. The hair. Do you know what the hair was called?
No.
Dizzy.
Dizzy. Oh.
Dizzy the hair.
So cute.
Yeah. Dead now, of course.
Oh, stop it. You always do this. You ruin animals in films for me. Yeah, so Charlie was such a dick that he's now retired from the acting industry. I think it was a dishonourable discharge more than a retirement,
Really?
to be honest.
Hopefully he's living off the residuals.
Yeah, let's hope so. But yeah, he was such a problem that I think Ralph Ineson was sent to the hospital, I think it was 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah, there's that scene where he's kind of tussling with Charlie. And calling him Charlie makes it sound so innocuous. Let's go back to Black Phillip.
Black Phillip, Black Phillip.
But yeah, he's kind of trying to get him to go into the pen or whatever.
Yeah.
And Black Phillip kind of, I don't know, charged at him.
Yeah.
And that was not intended to happen. That was not supposed to happen. And yeah, he had 3 separate occasions where he had to get hospital treatment.
Oof.
And I think at one point they were like, he separated a couple ribs, basically made him bleed, and like, oh God, the things
Bloody
they do
hell.
for their art.
Yeah, it seems like it was quite a grueling shoot, this one as well, because they did, they shot on location in Canada.
And it looked like it was in the middle of nowhere. I know it was supposed to, but...
Yeah, but it was. Like,
yeah. It looked very remote.
They wanted to shoot in New England, but money...
Yeah.
So they shot in Canada. The area that they wanted to use, like the scouting location or whatever, wanted to use was proper out in the sticks, and they all had to share. They ended up getting a 7-bedroom hotel, the cast anyway, and shared a hotel where they were just sort of isolated for. I think it was a 25-day shoot, so at least that. But that actually helped, like the isolation and stuff actually helped with their characters. Just the way that they deal with it, because it's a lot. That's a part of this story. A lot is how isolated they are from everybody else. They're now away from that community for whatever reason, because we don't really know the reason. You can just sort of assume that William is maybe like, I don't know.
Well,
he's grasped on someone.
His sin, the reason he's cast out is because he's done something prideful, but we never get to know what. And obviously that could be one of many things, couldn't it?
Yeah, and like an interpretation of the doctrine
Yeah.
that they're following. I don't know much about that kind of religious thing, but I know there are like separatists and...
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so talking about the religious side of things then.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 7 children, there's 7 family members.
Yep.
And I heard somewhere that maybe you could argue that sort of represents the 7 sins. Is it the 7 deadly sins?
7 deadly sins, which would make sense if his sin was pride, because that is one of the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah. He's definitely prideful throughout the movie. He obviously doesn't want to admit that he's not catching any food and stuff, and doesn't want to admit that maybe leaving that community was a bad idea.
Yeah.
And ultimately it's cost everyone their lives. Spoilers.
Yeah, it's cost everybody dearly.
Yeah. But at least he can chop some wood, eh?
Yeah, even that backfired.
Yeah. His lone log pile fell on his head. Poetry. Yeah, super well done. But yeah, so you could like his pride, obviously, there's no question, right? I don't know really, I couldn't name you the 7 sins, put it that way.
Well, the only other one that I think could be interpreted quite clearly is Caleb could be lost.
Yes.
Because he does kind of look at Thomasin at one point a little bit inappropriately, maybe. He's drawn to the witch when she's in her kind of femme fatale visage.
Yeah, that's probably the next most obvious one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because he does check out his sister's rack.
You had to say it, didn't you? I was trying to dance around that.
Well, it happens in the movie.
Yeah.
And it's not the worst thing that happens in this movie. But he's a boy. He's removed from the community. No one's fucking talking about sex education, are they, back then? They're just like, that's a sin, shut up, just stop it. Don't. But like, come on, you got to talk about these things.
Yeah, of course. Otherwise you end up with 5 children.
Yes. What about the baby? The baby, I've heard, maybe could be interpreted as original sin, right? So original sin means, you're going to explain to me what that means.
Am I?
I'm assuming that's like you're just born a sinner, right?
Yeah.
And then you have to pray, because they have that conversation, don't they? You have to, as soon as you're alive, you've got to say sorry, and you pray, and you hope that you're not going to do bad shit.
Yeah.
But because the baby can't talk yet, the baby can't apologize for being alive. So I'm assuming that's what...
That would make sense.
Right?
That would make sense, yeah.
Catherine Ruff, I've written down.
Rough?
Wrath.
Oh, wrath.
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 Is that being angry?
Yeah, and she is. She's a petty bitch.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, I don't know. Or greed, because she's so upset about the silver cup, and there's so many different interpretations.
Yeah.
And I do think the 7 deadly sins is worth exploring a bit. That's solid. And it's not something that had occurred to me.
I mean, Thomasin, greed. She wants to live deliciously.
Well, so I have thoughts about that, but I'm not going to get into it until the end.
All right, well, let's put a pin in.
Okay.
Would thou like to live deliciously? And we'll pick that up at the end.
Okay. I want to divert a little bit, because I think one of my favourite things about this is the music, or the score, should we say, not the music.
It's really chilling. It's really atmospheric.
There's very little music to speak of. Most of it is kind of vocalizations.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, Kubrick's done that before. More recently, a lot of Yellow Jackets. There was that kind of, not choral, but vocal score. And I think it's really effective. And it's just sort of, it's used sparingly in this instance, and it really fits. And I did read somewhere that it's intended to signal whenever the witch was kind of calling to one of them or trying to summon something.
Okay. Which
I think is a really interesting way of just adding more layers.
Yeah. It feels off the piece.
Yeah.
And it helps with all of the creepiness, because I sort of alluded to earlier that you do sort of see the witch very early on.
Mm-hmm.
And that score definitely helps maintain that presence, because you don't see her. You see it what, 3 times? See the witch 4 times?
So yeah.
And even then, it's not like full view, or the one time that it is, it's a different representation of that witch, which I guess was designed to entice Caleb. It worked.
It did.
I think, I don't know, I think there's a couple of times I laugh in this film.
Okay.
I do think there are moments that are funny.
Do you?
Yeah.
Which moments?
Well, I thought it was quite amusing, really, at the start, really, when Anya Taylor-Joy Thomason's looking after the baby and she's doing the boo thing. Because she goes boo and she goes boo and she goes boo. And then she gets quite aggressive with it. She's like, ah! And then that's like when the baby disappears. And I don't know, I kind of laughed at that bit. Just thought like that's the worst possible thing that can happen at that moment, and it happened. And the other time I laughed is when they tied the children to the fence. There's not a theme going on here.
Well, they didn't have like those elasticated reins that you can put children on back then, did they?
Yeah, that's what they needed for Baby's Day Out.
Yeah.
That's where Joe Montana went wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think there are a couple of moments. It's not a fucking laugh a minute film. It's quite harrowing.
I'm glad you cleared that up. Thank you.
And right after where that baby disappears, and you see what happens with the baby, and it's kind of slightly obscured, but you see the baby and you see harm come to the baby.
Oh yeah, like there's no. They make. I'm choosing the poorest choices of words at the moment. They make no bones about the fact that the child is very much deceased, and being utilized,
like mushed up and spread over the stick or the pole, as they used to call it back in those days.
Did they?
Yeah.
What they what do you call it? The broomstick.
Yeah, because it was before kind of that trope of or idea of the broomstick kind of was popular. It was just a stick, but they referred to it as a pole. But yeah, the idea was that she would smear the baby liquid over
there's no nice way to say it,
over the pole, and then they could fly.
Well, yeah, so I read somewhere that in folklore, literally like the recipe for the ointment, I guess, I don't know what to call it, that would allow witches to fly, which obviously we know is not true, which is why it's folklore. But the ingredients were things like poisonous herbs and things like wolfsbane and hallucinogenic herbs as well. But the rendered fat of an unbaptized baby.
Right, unbaptized. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Because that's what they talk about, isn't it? They say, or the kid Caleb is talking to William, where basically William just ends up going, look, shut up. I'm not talking to you anymore.
But I guess when they leave the settlement at the beginning, Kate Dickie's character is pregnant, I think.
Oh, right. Okay. I didn't pick up on that. I did wonder how much time had passed since leaving the settlement and when you see them again having
I'm guessing they built the house. Yeah. So
yeah, there's a scene where one of the outbuildings, only half the roof has been thatched.
Yeah.
So I don't know why he's chopping so much wood. Fucking get on and thatch that roof, mate.
Chivvy up before the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess that's quite an important note then, that if that was the baby that was born after they left the settlement, it wouldn't be baptized.
Yeah.
Which presumably the other children would be.
Yeah. Well, it didn't help the other children either, though, did it?
I mean, not really, no.
I mean...
But they weren't ground up into flying potion.
No, Caleb was just sexually assaulted by an adult.
You've made that assumption.
I mean, she is an adult woman, that is a child.
Yeah, we don't know what went on behind closed doors, thank God.
Yeah.
I think, do you know what? I think some of the film's biggest strengths are in those moments, because a lesser filmmaker would have shown us what happened when actually the mystery and him just turning up again, sort of spouting nonsense and looking like he's under some sort of trance. That's way more interesting.
Yeah, but you see, I mean, when there is that kiss, you see a quick shot of a hand,
a wizened old hand.
Yeah, a witchy old hand, and it's kind of The Shining-esque, isn't it? Where he's kissing
Yeah, that's a good shout.
that ghosty ghost in the ghost
Yeah,
room.
out of the
Or
shower.
the ghost house. Yeah, in the ghost shower. They have a ghost shower together.
Yeah.
And he says, "Oh, I'm trying to write my book."
Yeah, that's exactly how The Shining goes.
And he's really annoyed.
That one had ghosts, this one has goats.
Yeah.
That's the only difference.
I ain't afraid no goats.
Yeah, I think there's quite an interesting amount of foreshadowing in this film as well. And I'm interested to know if you picked up on much of that, having watched it twice this week.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I did pick up on it.
Obviously, it's a horror film, so we think they're not going to fare well, right?
Shit's got to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think it's Ralph Ineson's character who says at one point, "We will conquer this wilderness. It will not consume us."
Oh, yeah.
Which I guess is more of his pride rearing its ugly head.
Yeah.
And he's definitely punished for it. But yeah, stuff like that. And I think for the biggest one for me, and it's not something that struck me until this time around, because I think when you watch things with the podcast in mind, you pick up so much more than you would on a casual viewing.
Definitely, yeah.
Obviously, we've got the kind of... There are several moments, I think at least 3 that I can think of, where Thomasin is in the middle of the frame and it's quite a close shot and she's the only one in the room and the camera's focused on her and it's framed exactly the same each time, but at different points. And I found that really interesting. But yeah, right at the beginning when they're cast out, she's the only one who looks back. She kind of looks back at what she's losing rather than what they're going towards, which is where the rest of the family is looking.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of perhaps the biggest foreshadowing.
Okay.
She didn't want to leave. She was the one who wanted a way out.
She wanted to stay at the settlement.
That's the impression I get, yeah.
Right.
She's
Okay.
sort of wistfully looking back, whereas the rest of them were just head forward, new life.
Yeah.
Quite stubborn about it, I guess.
Yeah.
There's also one of the shots that I'm thinking of is when she's kneeling on the floor praying by herself.
Mm.
And she's the only one throughout the film who kind of shows contrition, who sort of confesses her sins to God. Well, the only one that we see do it anyway. Like she's confessing, saying that she's broken all of the cardinal sins in thought, if not in practice. And she's begging for forgiveness, like saying, Lord, help me. And obviously the theory is that it's not God that answers her.
Yeah.
Somebody hears the prayer, obviously, but it's not God.
Mm.
And that's when she sort of opens the door, metaphorically speaking, which I really like.
To the witch.
Yeah.
To the
Satan.
devil.
To Satan, yeah.
To the devil, Philip. Philip the devil.
Philip the devil, yes.
Philip the black devil.
Yeah. As the Satanic Temple call him. No, we stand the Satanic Temple. They wouldn't stand for such slander. They endorse the film, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Big fans of the film, yeah.
Well, it's a good movie.
Yeah. But I think specifically because they think it'll open up interesting religious conversation.
Okay. I heard the Pope loves this movie.
Did you?
Yeah.
I'm going to call bullshit on that. So the only cast members we haven't talked about are the 2 younger children. You started saying earlier on that you thought the acting from all of the kids was really impressive.
Yeah.
What did you think of the twins?
Well,
apart from sweet chewing when they shouldn't be.
Yeah, I thought the twins were good. They were good in the scenes. They were meant to be fucking irritating.
Yeah,
and
they nailed that.
I didn't really quite know what was going on with them, and I guess that was by design.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought they were very good. They weren't on screen an awful long time, but particularly Mercy, she had a bit more to do than the other one.
She had quite a lot more dialogue, I think.
Yeah, and she was great. I thought, I don't know, I was quite happy to see the back of them, let's put it that way.
Okay.
But you don't physically see what happens to them, do you?
In what's... Oh, right at the end, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They just sort of disappear, right? After they do the possession thing.
Well, they're locked up in the barn with Thomasin and the goats, right?
Yeah.
The parents, like everybody...
Originally, yeah.
That's at that point where everybody's turned against one another and the parents lock all 3 remaining children in the barn.
Yeah.
And basically hammer nails to make sure they can't get out. And when they wake up in the morning, Thomasin is out, like she wakes up but there's blood everywhere. The barn is destroyed. I think the assumption is that the kids are no longer with us, shall we say.
Yeah.
But again, we don't need to see it. This film is so restrained.
Well, I maybe those children
are you going to say you would have liked to see it?
No. Maybe the reason that the witches fly at the end of the movie is because those twins are... Oh, no, because they need to be unbaptized, don't they? Unbaptized babies in order to fly.
Maybe.
Who knows about the law? But, yeah, no, I wondered if they were used as some kind of child fuel for their flying at the end of the movie, where Anya Taylor-Joy is like, yeah, I'm going mad, or I'm being a witch. I don't know which one. Do you?
I know which one I want to believe, but we'll talk about that when we get to the end.
All right.
So let's go back a little bit. I want to talk about the scene with Caleb. You know which one? The scene.
Which one? The hunting? When they're hunting?
No, when he reemerges.
Oh,
after
right,
he's met the witch.
Yep. And he comes back and he's out in the rain.
And he's
naked.
Just out of it.
Yep.
Shivering, kind of gibbering wreck. And then, I don't know, he sort of comes to after spitting something out. I think, was it an apple? Like a rotten apple?
Yeah, after they've done the medicine.
After they've done the bloodletting, which is nuts. How do people ever think that was a thing?
I don't know. I didn't know it was a thing until I asked you what it was yesterday. Why is she cutting her son's head open? You said it's like releasing the madness or something. No,
I mean, a lot of people back then thought it was kind of a cure-all.
Right.
That the I don't know, the badness, the toxicity was contained within the blood.
Yeah.
So literally bloodletting was a way to rid the body of that.
Right.
It was like a cleansing process. Can't imagine it worked too well.
No.
Since it's a load of bollocks.
Yeah.
Certainly didn't work in this case.
No, it didn't do Caleb any favours.
Because he was witched.
He got witched. He got appleized in the mouth. And yeah. Is an apple is that synonymous with a witch? An apple? I thought that was teachers.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, an apple is kind of generally quite closely associated with the Bible in terms of Adam and Eve. That was the first sin, wasn't it?
When the snake's like, go on, eat that apple.
Yeah.
Bit like the goat.
She does.
Bit like the goat. The goat's going, Anya Taylor-Joy, better eat that apple.
Yeah, and she was tempted, and so that was the first sin.
Mm.
So that would be my interpretation of that.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Just because they're so devout. But that scene gave me chills. It gives me chills every time. That kid is so good.
He was fucking great in that scene, and it was a long take. And he's only had I looked on his letterboxd, and he's only had like 3 other credits, I think.
Okay.
But
he's probably still in school.
Well, yeah, exactly. Have a proper childhood, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good scene, really intense. And I don't know, at that point, you're just kind of like, well, fucking who next?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if the baby isn't safe and the children, like if nobody is safe, this is just going to end very badly for anyone. All bets are off. And
he's probably, out of everybody, they're all flawed characters, but he's the best of them.
Do you think?
Yeah, he's a boy, so obviously he's a bit misguided, and like he's had all fucking how old is he? Like 10 or whatever.
I think he's supposed to be 11.
11, so he's had 11 years of just indoctrination,
and just miserable growing up. Like the way the Puritans lived, it wasn't much of a life. It was literally just surviving.
Yeah.
And especially then, they're on their own trying to be self-sufficient. That's no life.
Yeah, exactly. He's removed from the community. He's doing everything that he's told. He's reciting the prayers. He's out hunting with his dad. He's covering for his old man as well. Like,
but then that's a sin.
Lying.
Deceit, yeah.
Deceit, yeah. But William is happy for him to lie as well. So he's definitely flawed, but I think Caleb's the best of them.
Do you really? I'm intrigued actually. What do you think Thomasin's sins are?
Well, she killed her mother. That's pretty bad. You shouldn't do that. I mean,
throughout the film, not at the end.
Yeah, I think she gets corrupted. I'd say that it's unfortunate. Maybe if they stay at the settlement, she doesn't turn into a psychopath.
But the Thomasin that we see throughout the story, why do you think she's so bad?
I don't necessarily think she's bad. I don't think she starts out bad. I think she's corrupted by the evil goat.
I don't think she is until the end. I think at the end she's lost everything and she sees that as, oh, maybe this is my chance to have something of a life. Because she's got nothing left at that point.
I suppose, yeah, at that point she's lost everything.
And that would drive you a little bit mad.
But you still shouldn't make a deal with the devil, though, should you?
Well, no,
if the devil pops up and like, I'll give you you can have some butter.
Is he hot?
It's that goat. He looks like a goat.
I really like goats. I probably would. I would write in the goat's book.
Would you?
Yeah, I love goats.
You're fucked then.
Yeah,
Don't bring this home to me as well. I don't go. Have I got to get a crucifix?
Did I not tell you about the goat I've just adopted?
Really? Shit. I've got my priest outfit from Halloween still. I'm going to put that on.
You might have to utilise that. Yeah, I don't know. I disagree. I think she's probably the best character in this in terms of purity, goodness. Throughout, anyway, because she's desperate to please everybody. She's blamed for a lot, but she's never sort of outwardly resentful. To the younger children a little bit because they wind her the fuck up.
Yeah, because they're twats.
Yeah, so she does snap at them, but
but she's still, a child herself.
Yeah,
and
her parents are talking about selling her off to another family.
Yeah, she's definitely like she's not facing good circumstances. Like you say, she lost the baby. It wasn't her fault. It just happened on her watch, and then she overhears her parents saying, or her mum specifically saying, "Look, she's becoming an adult now. We can flog her." And you just think, oh, that's a whole nother life of misery, potentially.
Misery and servitude.
Yeah. And her options are very limited, as you say.
But she's the only one that we see who's, I mentioned it earlier, who's actually contrite. She's the only one we see on screen who's like begging God for forgiveness. They all claim to be devout and dedicated to their religion, but she's the one who shows it the most, ironically.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Thomasin's a real one. MVP.
Yeah, I guess so. She didn't really do anything wrong, did she?
No.
Until the very end.
And even then it was self-defense.
Yeah, it was self-defense. I have to think on that some more, I think. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm not watching it a fourth time though. I'm going to give it a while.
Not this week anyway, yeah.
Yeah. But no, I'm Team Caleb. I've got to say, I'm Team Caleb.
Okay, I'm Team Thomasin.
Yeah, good.
So, importantly, we've got to get to the heart of the issue here. What is your reading of the film?
I think it's really interesting because it's one of those where, do you mean in terms of the witch stuff? Or are you talking
Do you take
metaphors?
it literally? Or do you see it as like a parable? Or, well, you can take it literally, you can take it as a parable. Or you could take it as insanity, descent into insanity.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like we were saying earlier, I think it can be argued that any of those takes make sense, despite obviously your research on the mouldy food being implausible.
But despite that, I think the descent into madness is still completely plausible.
It could still be mass hallucination of some variety.
Shared delusion,
yeah. So I don't know. I haven't really got a take on it that I would say, oh, it's this, because I think it's all of those. And like you said, Eggers. He has said as well, like you said already, that you can read it many different ways.
I hate it when directors skirt around the issue. I want to know what his intention was. Damn it.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate that you can have multiple readings.
Could you? Is this a could this be looked at as maybe a more contemporary story in a way? Could you view it through the lens of a modern teenage young woman?
I mean, obviously, circumstances aside, I think the problems that children and teenagers face are largely the same. Just with some added technology.
Regardless of what your parents believe, they're forcing their beliefs on you.
Yeah. And like the only added complication in the modern world is the fucking internet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's pretty similar, I would say.
Yeah, you view it anyway, I think. Have you got strong feelings on that? Because I don't really. I think
do.
it's interesting. Okay, go on, hit me with your strong feelings.
So my personal favoured reading of it is very literal.
Yeah, I thought it might be.
Yeah,
You just want it to be the witch.
I do.
Yeah.
I do, because I'm a huge fan of like witch lore in general. I mean, the whole theme of the season was my choice. There's no secret that I love fairy tales, folk tales, myths, legends, all of that. I live for that stuff. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's like the little kid in me who's just sort of seeking some nostalgia and comfort in stories that are somewhat familiar, but with a darker grown-up edge. I don't know. But this definitely ticks all of those boxes for me. And I definitely prefer the literal reading.
I can't think of that many witches movies, particularly good ones.
Okay.
I mean, obviously you've got stuff like Hocus Pocus, which is played for laughs, and The Craft, obviously, and The Craft reboot.
The less said about that, the better.
Yeah.
The first half was great.
Was it?
Yeah, and then it went to shit in the second half.
What about that Charmed?
So I do want to spend a bit of time talking about this.
About
Not Charmed
Charmed?
specifically, no.
Oh, no. What have I done?
But just in terms of how witches are depicted on screen and how that's changed over the years. Because the witch is, with the exception of Thomasin at the end, and the kind of idealistic view that the witch projects to Caleb, I don't know, like the depiction of the witch here is very in keeping with old school folktales.
Yeah.
And a lot of the way witches were represented in media were drawn from children's stories and so-called historical texts and folklore. And that was kind of, you know, the wizened old crone with the big nose and the boils on her face and the like spiny fingers.
Grot bags.
Grot bags, yes. Grot bags for our British listeners. Nobody outside of England will get that. But yeah, I don't know. They're sort of, I don't know if it's that I identify with them. This is going to sound really strange. But they're always shown to be outcasts, which I love. But yeah, things have definitely changed over the years. More recently, in the past kind of 2 decades, I would say, or maybe even 3 decades. But witches started to be portrayed as younger, more youthful, more sexy. Do you know what? Maybe it even started with Bewitched, the sitcom.
Is that oh no, I'm thinking of the Melissa Joan Hart thing.
No, that was Sabrina the Teenage Witch,
Yeah.
the first iteration on TV.
Right.
Yeah, and more recently, we have had like the Sabrina the Teenage Witch reboot that was on Netflix.
Have we? Okay.
Yeah, which I believe was sort of more closely tied to the comics than the 90s TV show. Things like Charmed, obviously The Craft, where they were still outcasts, they were still outsiders, but far more socially accepted and far more attractive than we've been used to seeing them. So this particular depiction felt like a return to form. It felt like, I don't know, I liked it in a way. In a way, it's sort of shitty and misogynistic when we realised that most of that stuff was probably written by men. And they were just like, oh, that old hag there, that unmarried one that's never had any kids, she's disgusting. Let's try and drown her.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it sucks, but I'm both drawn to and repulsed by that depiction of witches.
Okay. Well, I think it's interesting. I hadn't thought about the modern take on witches, and you're right. They're definitely played a lot sexier now.
Yeah.
And that's probably...
But everything is.
But that's exactly what I was going to say. Everything is, and it's just that culture. Everything's got to be a bit sexy in order for someone in a suit to make some money.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was nice to have an oldie kind of what you remember from it was the story about quicker put children in the pot and they don't get in the oven
Gretel.
Because they'll eat you in the oven, or there's a big giant near you or something.
I think you're thinking of Hansel and Gretel, like the kind of Grimm's fairy tale type witches.
Yeah, it was a lot nicer to have that kind of depiction and have it closer to, I guess, if as close to it being true, if this thing was true, You know, because obviously Eggers, he
he went to great pains in terms of
this
accuracy, didn't he?
5 years he took to research this movie,
Yeah.
and it was a lot of it was a lot of the text dialogue was lifted directly from historical documents where children had said this exact thing, and that's fascinating.
I be the witch of the woods.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's really, really detailed, and it wants to be as accurate as possible. And I heard him describe it as what if a Puritan had a nightmare, what would it look like?
Oh, yeah.
Back then.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that gave me a nice perspective on what this movie is. And also, it's interesting, like you say, about the history of witches back then as well. And most of the stories and how they evolved and changed over time probably was just finger pointing.
Yeah.
A strong, outspoken woman. I'm not saying it was that every time, but it was probably that quite a lot. As you say, unmarried or unable to have children.
Yeah.
Or just has a particular skill, or
outsiders that didn't fit the mold of what society wanted them to be.
Yeah.
And particularly, like we've talked about it before, the Salem witch trials. I visited Salem. I went to the Salem Witch Museum. I've read books on it. I'm quite invested in that time period. But even that kind of was born of racism.
Yeah.
Fear of other, because I think she was a Haitian nanny that they accused of teaching the girls voodoo. So it's all born of just misguided hate.
Yeah, it's misguided hate.
And fear. I think it's rooted in fear.
Yeah.
Of what you don't understand.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand it, then let's try and stamp it out before it becomes a thing.
Yeah, it's weird using made up stories, as you say, to fight the thing that you're afraid of, which you could argue what kind of religion is also doing in its own. I mean, what are the differences really between someone practicing witchcraft and someone being a priest or whatever? You know, you're praying to up or down, I don't know, whatever your preference is. And I don't know, I suppose witches are more like physical based, aren't they? So you could argue that it's maybe more scientifically leaning because they actually use physical things rather than religion is you pray to a magic person in the sky, whereas they use baby entrails and like paprika or whatever.
Baby entrails and paprika.
Yeah.
And I believe it's turmeric.
Yeah.
No. But yeah.
Oh, it's good. It's anti-inflammatory.
Yeah. Cures all manner of ills. That and bloodletting. But yeah, no, you're right. I think biblical stories like Jesus rising from the dead is no weirder than the stuff that provides the foundations for things like Wicca. And even like Christianity took shitloads from paganism.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of blurred lines, but finger pointing. And it doesn't make a lot of sense when you break it all down. But anyway. The witch.
The VVitch.
The witch. Good for her. This is definitely in the pantheon of good for her cinema.
Really?
Yeah.
So you think that she's gonna live deliciously as was promised?
I do. Do you know what? If somebody told me you can go and live in a little house in the woods, surrounded by cute animals, and never have to talk to a human man ever again, I'd be like, where do I sign up? No offense, Dan, but where do I sign up?
No, I think I would take that deal also, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of feel like, right, what I feel like, right, is that
do tell.
What I'm saying is, right, yeah, okay. At some point, she's going to pay for making this deal with the devil, right? It doesn't come free. Her soul is, if we're taking it as literal and the witches exist and the devil exists and she's made a deal with the devil, does that not mean that her soul is damned for eternity? Does not that mean that she's
in her religion?
Fucked? Okay.
In the religion of Christianity, not in other religions.
Maybe Satanism doesn't work that way. Maybe you just get a fiery cup.
Well, I mean, Satanism is isn't what people make it out to be. And particularly things like the Satanic Temple, it's not actually worshipping Satan.
No, I mean Satanism in the sense of whatever this movie is trying to say that is. I mean, they're talking goat, and because this movie is saying that the devil lives in a goat. And
well, yeah, historically that's been, goats have been tied to that kind of thing. They've got evil eyes, man.
And they're fuckwits.
Yeah, they're jerks. If he was going to be any animal, it's got to be a goat.
I don't know. On some level, I think I feel bad for her because I know at some point she's going to have to pay her dues, maybe. But maybe not. Until that point, she can fly around on a stick for a bit, I guess.
She looks happier in that moment at the end than I've seen her through the entire film. So I'm going to continue saying, good for her.
Yeah, but has she lost her mind? She's just fucking lost it.
Well, then she doesn't know any better. That's still great.
I suppose so.
She's still laughing.
She's ascending. She's literally ascending.
Yeah. And she didn't even have to rub any baby entrails all over herself.
No.
Win-win.
Well, we didn't see that anyway. They might have been off screen.
Implied baby entrails.
It's implied baby entrails, yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say?
No, there's nothing specifically about the witch, I think, that I want to go through. I don't know about you. I was thinking about other movies that I could watch that might inform my thoughts on this movie. And I mean, I've seen The Lighthouse and I've seen The Northman, both directed by Robert Eggers. And this is my favourite one out of those three.
Yeah, same.
Quite easily.
By quite a wide margin.
By quite a way, yeah. And I was trying to think of other movies that I could watch. And I thought of The Crucible. I haven't seen that, but you own it.
I do. It's not bad. I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, okay.
Doesn't often go far wrong, does he?
No, definitely not. But I didn't watch it, so I don't
That was so insightful, Dan. Thank you.
Continuing this segment of movies that Dan might watch one day. Hexen.
Oh, yeah. So that's reportedly the first film about witches, isn't it?
Is it really? Okay.
Well, it's 1922, sort of semi-fictionalized documentary style.
Yes, that's right. Swedish silent movie.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, it's mixing real, I guess, documents with fiction. And it's on YouTube.
Is it?
Yes.
Ooh.
And I put it on last night when you went to bed and I thought I'll do some podcast research.
Did you have weird dreams after?
Yes. Very weird. No, I didn't watch it all because it was an hour and 45 minutes long. And I thought, I'm not going to watch all of this. But I did sort of skip through it and watch the odd scene here and there. Now, there is a scene where a devil creature, what I assume would be a devil creature, is holding up the prosthetic corpse of a baby.
Okay.
Like in quite full view.
That's dark for 1922.
It's pretty dark.
It's dark for these days, I suppose.
Yeah. It was more graphic than this movie.
Wow. 100 years ago.
Yeah, but it did make me kind of interested to see what else is in this movie. I think maybe we should put this on one day. You know?
Yeah.
It is a silent movie, and it would be my first silent movie. The closest that I've ever gotten to watching a silent movie is probably Three Amigos when they have those little vignettes in the middle of the film.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so maybe as a film education, I should get to it. But
we need to go. Yeah, we need to go backwards. I need to make you watch Metropolis one day.
Yeah.
And Nosferatu.
Yeah. Peter. You know it was covered. Yeah. So Hexen is one that Eggers had actually mentioned. Obviously, having watched and being super aware of, because I think he's a super cultured guy. His parents. His dad taught Shakespeare and his mum was an actor, so
that would track.
Super cultured.
I mean, the script for The Witch, obviously a lot was taken from historical documents, as you said, but it was quite poetic in that way that Shakespeare was.
Yeah.
So that absolutely makes sense.
Yeah, it's, and you know, like I made a joke about having to work hard to listen to the dialogue earlier, but actually, like after a couple of minutes, I didn't even really notice it.
I think you acclimatise, don't you?
You do acclimatise very quickly. And I do think a lot of that is to do with the performances and how things are delivered, because you can obviously say a lot with facial expressions and movements. And I think that's one thing that all of this cast did super, super well, particularly, everyone, you know, particularly the William and Catherine. and Anya Taylor-Joy and Caleb, particularly those four, were just did a fucking brilliant job.
Yeah, they seemed really dedicated.
Their arse out of on this movie. Just did brilliantly.
And super cute little bit of trivia, because I'm nosy on social media. I remember seeing about, I don't know, maybe like 3-4 years ago, Anya Taylor-Joy was commenting on one of Kate Dickey's posts on Instagram calling her mum.
Oh.
And it just warmed my cold, dead heart.
Mum, do you remember when I killed you? Wasn't that great? Sequel to this movie?
No, never.
Did you watch a sequel called The VVitches?
No.
When there are many witches and there's a robot and they set up a turret.
That sounds like the worst thing imaginable. This movie is perfect. I would say no notes, but I've made a lot of notes. But mostly about how perfect it is.
Yeah, it's a good one. It is a good one. And I'm surprised at how much I like this movie, but just it's so interesting, and there's not anything else like it really. The witches as a genre is something which we touched on earlier. Is something that I think needs to be explored more. There's not many good ones. There's not much.
We haven't even talked about Suspiria, you know.
Fuck me, Suspiria. Yeah,
both of them,
which is my favourite witch movie.
Yeah.
I love that film.
The Argento version, obviously.
Yeah, and the remake wasn't too bad either, was it?
I loved the remake.
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely a genre that I think has way more to offer in terms of exploration, in terms of just, if we can just get some good scripts written about it, there's a lot to mine there. But I guess, you know, to make a film this good, you've got to have the knowledge of all of that stuff and be prepared to do research.
Put in 5 years painstaking research into the oldie worldy dialogue.
Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a period piece. It could be a contemporary piece, but based on true, unquote, folklore. And truer to those kind of stories.
True folklore might be an oxymoron.
True folklore, yeah. Well, yeah.
Proper banger to start off the season.
Yeah, really good start to the season. I think I'm really happy that we've started with this. And as I said, it's my favourite eggers.
Yes, me too. 5 stars.
Yeah, I'm going to give it 4.25 annoying goats out of 5. No, brilliant movie. So continuing the folklore theme, next week we're going to be doing a Christmas movie, aren't we? Because
we're going from Black Phillip to Black Christmas.
Yes, right. Yeah, I love it. Black Christmas. Next Monday, Christmas Day.
Yes.
Black Christmas.
From the director of A Christmas Story comes one of the most harrowing Christmas-based slashers you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, 'tis the season to be jolly.
Something like that.
Let's stab you in the eye.